my dears. I am Johanna Takonis, and I welcome you to the Deconstruction of the PTSD podcast. In this episode, we explore how we can weather the storm by recognizing, understanding, and countering it. So let us talk about it. But first, I want to thank you for your patience and apologize for the long delay. I really missed you. It seems life took my last episode as a challenge, and things went very south and also west-east. I hope your start into the year was better than mine, and that you managed the heat well. When I'm referring to the storm, I'm talking about the many variants of it. Your personal life, your surrounding, the world, and naturally everything in between. And, of course, everything is interconnected. How your personal life is will influence how you view the world. And, of course, the state of the world impacts you. It is important to recognize what is causing your personal storm, understand how it is done, and then how one can counter it. This greatly affects people with PTSD, and learning how to protect oneself is crucial. We start with the word recognizing, your word recognizing, understanding, countering the word, and then countering for your word. I think it is pretty clear that a storm is coming. That is hardly news. And in some cases, it's already there. But for quite a while, people have been kept in a state of agitation. Be it from news, social media, articles, videos, you name it. I'm sure you're familiar with clickbait. And there was a lot to benefit from it. More money, distraction, occupation, and obedience of people. And of course, that manifested in form of more clicks, easier to manage, and no change of the system. But with internet came the escalation. And now with AI added to the mix, things get really extreme really quickly. And you can see that especially in America, where the news are always very dramatic and world-ending and infuriating, which is in extreme contrast to the rest of the world. There is even a social media trend showing how baseline traumatized Americans are and the effect this whole 24 news cycle has on them. When they lived for a while in a different country, they suddenly start de-traumatizing themselves. And they didn't even realize how afraid they were and what the effect of it was until they left the system. It is all often framed to make you feel helpless and at mercy. And for many people who suffered through a traumatic experience, this is re-traumatizing. This is basically like an abusive partner would affect you. It is also not exactly a secret that with the internet and social media, access to you and your world became so much easier. Algorithms can detect mental breakout, pattern behavior, and so on, and respond to it. They create a loop that keeps you stuck and engaged. And I cannot overstate that the algorithm knows everything. There was this game where the algorithm could detect, depending on how you clicked on the game, if you had a mental breakdown or an episode, and then would pop up purchase offerings, so you would, purchase stuff. And it knew exactly when to pop it when you couldn't resist it. Another ones can exactly determine how much you can be pushed. And they always want you to be constantly on alert. And that often means, especially for those already with PTSD, constant active PTSD, and worsening of the symptoms or getting the worst symptoms. It even can lead to the escalating and worsening of your PTSD. It also lowers your tolerance for things that bring you out of balance. Bad news, a bad day, or a trigger. Because your brain has so little resources left to counter surprises. It also leads to a constant feeling of helplessness, which leads to depression and learned helplessness, potentially. Because if you cannot help yourself or others, you fall usually under depression. It's a shutdown mechanism. And the more you're under depression, the more you really cannot help yourself or others or get better. So the only thing that is truly left is a slow decay. If you want to heal, you need to take back control. To understand besides the obvious, all the baits, be it rage bait, or you won't believe what X did, or clickbait, you will not believe what happened next, or whatever people use to get you to click on a headline, on a video, and so on, it is important to talk about the other things. Beware especially of sneaky inserts. For example, he did crime, that's what Group A does. This causes a false dichotomy, aka creating two teams who don't exist, and you must choose between them. And another thing is, for example, basically the whole 24-hour news cycle. There's constant stressful news anchors who are angry almost all the time, or at least agitated, and something is wrong always. And it's just so overwhelming, and it's completely understandable that people are shutting down. If you want to test if you're affected, you might want to ask yourself these questions. Are you in a state of almost constant stress? Are you afraid without immediate reason? Are you not feeling safe? Are there no breaks, pauses, or moments to calm down? Do you feel like you can't stop? Do you feel like harm will come your way if you stop? Do you feel like you are not in reasonable control of your life? Do you feel like you can't change things? These are the same questions you should ask yourself if a relationship is good for you. And it doesn't matter if it's platonic, romantic, family, or something else. Which leads us to the question, how can we counter the world? It should come not as a surprise that I recommend to stop watching the 24-hour news cycle. Set a time and consume news during that. And step away if you need to, or if you feel overwhelmed. I would definitely recommend doing that, at least regularly, because it will show you that changes nothing, that nothing really effectively changed on a grand scale of things. And that can be such a grounding experience, like I already recommended last episode. Find a news source that makes you feel calm, which is also factual and nuanced. I think you might have heard about a sponsor who usually is well suited for that, but it can really be from another nation, or one who just uploads short videos or has just one show a day. But also think about unfollowing people who add to your stress. That includes people who manipulate their pictures and lead to body issues by those who follow them. There's literally studies on that. The same goes for beauty magazines with their heavily photoshopped bodies. If we see only those manipulated pictures of these perfect unnatural bodies, our brain thinks that is our competition we are surrounded with. It helps to go outside and see the normal bodies everyone around us has. But if we only see the fake perfection, that is nothing any real person can compete with, and shouldn't either. Alternatively, also people who show stuff that make you feel lesser, be it because they show you great wealth or how apparently easy their life is, which, if you follow any of the more critical channels, show that that might be not so accurate. And just overall adjust your algorithm to make you feel happy and informed. And you do that by following certain people. The algorithm will fall in line because it wants you to stay. And if you only want to watch that sort of content, it will only offer that sort of content. But it's also important not to respond to clickbait or any of the rage channels or methods that's being used. And if the algorithm doesn't behave, switch to show only followed mode. That usually makes it go back and more strictly adhere to what you originally want. And of course, ideally, you want to set a time limit for social media. which leads us to the final question of how can you counter for your world? One of the most crucial steps is to make the world as small as you can. You can achieve that by removing anything you can. And I mean anything. All that doesn't have to be done, remove. And it is important to not let outside pressure or expectations dictate your life and what you should and shouldn't do, or what you have to do, or on what timeline. It's just important to just breathe and take it slow. Just focus on the next thing you do, and nothing else, just the next thing. And the astonishing thing is, the slower you move, the faster you move forward. This is true with everything, with PTSD, with any sort of mental thing. And I genuinely hope that one day I will hopefully find the logical reason for it. You should also go with the flow and your limitations. There is no point in trying to be someone you're not. Do what you can do and go from there. Not where you think you should be or where you expect to be, but where you are. And accept that you're just limited in some ways. Maybe these can be removed later on, but for now, they exist. Which goes nicely into the next point of focus on what you can control. Because the things you can control are the only things you can truly make yourself worried about. Or at least have a way to control your position in it. And it can be pretty overwhelming with everything going on. And if you need a reminder, just ask yourself, okay, but what can I do? Don't focus on what you can't do and cannot change. I know it's hard. I struggled with myself. But you really benefit from just focusing on what you can do and move things from there. And you have to find a way to deal or remove things you can't. Be it you redirect it, you can inform yourself so you know better to deal with it, you accept it, or you do whatever is necessary so you find a way to deal with it. Because it's sadly a fact of life that we only have a limited control of our life, but that also means we also have a limited responsibility, and that main responsibility is with us. And we are responsible for our action and therefore what we can do. But it's also important to recognize what you can do is often more than you might believe. And a good tip is always to find a hobby that you can enjoy offline and helps you relax. Now, the emphasis is on can, not must. The danger, of course, of an online hobby is that it can turn to a competition and that there are outside influences again, while an offline hobby is great for just, maybe listen to some music while doing it and just shutting the world out and just have a joyous moment and just relax a bit. And of course, the ever idea is to try to surround yourself with people who make you feel better. Ideally, of course, that they are grounded in reality and most importantly supportive. Not in a blind supportive way, but who support your successes and help you in your downtimes. And of course, as always, I have to recommend to increase your confidence, as we talked about in episode 155, to make you feel more confident and secure. That be about weathering the storm or anything really, and your ability to face challenges. It gives you a better understanding what you can do, what your limitations are, makes you more resistant to trauma, makes you less likely to fall to abuse and narcissism and all the buzzwords. And most important of all, be kind to yourself. Most likely you are doing more than you're really imagining. And it is hard, way harder than most people believe. And you are there with you all the time. So it is important to nurture a healthy relationship with yourself and to be kind to yourself and nourish that. The caring of yourself, to make sure you're taking care enough of yourself. And by being kind to yourself, you're removing the pressure and stress, which is very hindering for your healing and for you getting better overall. So being kind to yourself goes a very long way. That was it for today's episode. I hope you found it helpful and that you are safe and well. And as always, if you have any questions or feedback and the like, please let me know. More information and transcript you can find, as usually, under johannatakonis.com, and links are in the description. You can also find me under @johannatakonis on YouTube, Twitter /X, and Instagram. I hope to see you next time. Stay safe, take care, and have a wonderful time. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments, my socials, or a message.